Bonsoir tout le monde. Je m'appelle Raymond Price, je suis le coordinateur des projets et des événements culturels ici à la Nouvelle-Orléans. My name is Raymond Price. I'm the coordinator of cultural events and projects, bless you, at the Alliance Francaise-New Orleans. And we're grateful that you came to spend the evening with us tonight for our June Rendez-vous. Nous aimons accueillir de nombreux événements, celui-ci à la Nouvelle-Orléans, à la Maison Jaune, the Yellow House. We like to host many cultural events here at the Yellow House, as we call it, on Jackson Avenue. Tonight we have two very special guests who are going to introduce themselves. I'll say a little bit about them first, but it's June. A lot of people like to leave the city, but we're still doing things at the Alliance. So if you're interested in whatever we're doing, for example, if you want to take French classes, we have our summer open house next week, next Wednesday, starting at 4 p.m. You can test your level if you've never taken a French class before. We have teachers on staff who can do placement tests. You can take group classes, see what we're offering for the summer session. And then we also have a champagne seminar. I see people have their white wines or red wines with them. Next Friday, we have a champagne seminar at 6 p.m. Mark Whitham's going to take us through the Champagne region with a few bottles that he's hand-selected for that class. And our big event for the summer, the big anticipated event, is Bastille Day, July 10th. So there'll be food, crepes, oysters, French cheeses, sausages, pâtés, a whole lot more. Our musical guests are Elijah Hartman, the Provocateurs, and we're still adding as we go along. So the list hasn't been finalized yet, but it's going to be a fun event if you've been before. You know, we have the face painting for the kids, the French costume contest. This year's being judged by Tracy Dundas of New Orleans Fashion Week. Some New Orleans baby dolls have offered their services, so we're trying to have a big celebration this year for Bastille Day. And for this evening, I want to introduce you to Dr. Rory O'Neill-Schmidt and Dr. Rosary O'Neill. Both of them are widely accomplished, so I'll read a little about Rory first. She's an award-winning filmmaker, author of 6 books, and a visiting Fulbright scholar who leads faculty development programs at the University of Southern California. She's an executive producer of The Long, Long Night, the acclaimed Duplass Brothers production series starring Mark Duplass, Barrett O'Brien, and Karen Pittman, currently streaming on Apple TV and Amazon Prime. And right beside her, her mother, Dr. Rosary O'Neill, is also a senior Fulbright drama specialist and winner of 9 Fulbright Awards, including 5 to study Edgar Degas in Paris. She's published 19 plays, 6 plays, screenplay anthologies, 3 novels, and 7 books. That's just a little about what they've done, so please give them a round of applause. And this evening, they're gonna talk about their latest collaboration together, because y'all have worked together before on many other projects, regarding a very famous New Orleans icon, the Baroness de Pontalba. So I'm not gonna take up too much more time. I'll let them do the rest of the talking. Thank you so much.
I'm gonna get your hand and stand up. Made it, yeah. Bonsoir, bonjour. How many of you speak French? Oh, you're not serious. Oh, mon Dieu. How many of you don't speak French? Oh, a few. Okay, all right. I'm not going to speak long then. We're going to do mostly English. Bonjour à tous. Je m'appelle Rory O'Neill, ma fille. Et nous voulons nous remercier chaleureusement l'Alliance Française et nos hôtes, Alliance Française, Alan Dubiliver.
Alan Nobili, Executive Director, Sarah Mahoney, and Raymond Price, thank you all so much for having us here at Alliance Francaise. We also want to thank our editor, Scott Campbell. Scott, where are you in the back?
Yay.
Thank you for believing in this book and publishing this book, Scott. And then also Everett, we wanted to
Everett Knox, one of our sponsors for this year. Thank you, Everett.
Stand up. Pritzker's.
Martha Pritzker's wife is not here, but they've been sponsoring our event, so thank you. Dans ma famille, l'amour de la langue française se transmet depuis 5 générations. Ma arrière-grand-mère à Newcomb College ma mère à Ursuline, moi à Sacré-Cœur, ma fille Rory à Dominican et ma petite fille à Holy Name. Nous avons toutes étudié le français. C'est aussi grâce à la France que Rory et moi avons découvert l'histoire extraordinaire de la baronne de Pontalba. Nous avons fait des recherches ensemble, nous avons voyagé ensemble, nous avons aussi échangé par Zoom et nous avons écrit cette histoire ensemble. À Nouvelle-Orléans, nous avons reçu le soutien des descendants de la baronne de sa nièce à la 6e génération. Plus tard, nous avons reçu le soutien de Pierre de Pontalba, descendant de la famille à la 7e génération, et son archiviste. Et nous étions accueillis au château de Montévêque, près de Paris, 2 fois, pour voir le salon du meurtre. Ces rencontres ont donné vie à l'histoire de la baronne. Nous avons été inspirés par son courage et sa résilience. Elle a défendu ce qui était à elle. Elle était forte. Elle était déterminée. Elle a construit les célèbres immeubles Pontalba sur Jackson Square. Son histoire unit la France et la Nouvelle-Orléans. C'est pourquoi, tout le monde l'a raconté. Pour nous, la France n'est pas seulement un pays, elle est partie de notre histoire. Et aujourd'hui, Rory et moi sommes heureuses de partager cette histoire avec vous. Merci beaucoup. Vive la baronne. Vive la France. Vive la Nouvelle-Orléans. Après, c'est anglais. It's all for the French. Rory's going to do it in English. Okay. And we'll show you the story.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Mom. That was beautiful.
Merci.
Okay, let's get started. So I wanted to tell you all a little bit about the Baroness. Has anyone heard of her before? Yes? Okay. So I might be calling on you also, just so you know, be prepared. So we wanted to title this today based on her passion and her courage, and also this theme of reconciliation and forgiveness, which is quite beautiful. So the question I would like to ask you all is, what woman puts her hand in front of a gun and says no? You know?
La baronne.
Yes, a New Orleans woman. Yes. All right, thank you. And tonight we're going to talk about these 4 chapters. There's a lot more in the book, but first we'll start with the promise of her roots.
La promesse.
Her roots in New Orleans, her early life, her family. Second, we'll go into the nightmare,
Le cauchemar.
where she's lured, stalked, trapped. Third, we'll go into the vulture's descent.
La descente du Vautour.
And I'll take you into the murder room. I've got a short video to show you. And then, lastly, the rise of the phoenix.
L'ascension du phénix.
Perfect. And her return to New Orleans. Okay. Perfect. Okay, so first the promise. So in starting the book, and you can go to the next one too, Raymond, we wanted to make sure, we always like to ground, we do place-based storytelling, and we're obsessed with New Orleans still. And we've done 5 books about New Orleans, but we still don't know everything. But we wanted just to share, so you guys all live here, you know what New Orleans is, but more about her roots and her family. So Micaëla is the daughter of this person here, Andres Alminister, who is a man who came from Spain with Governor Riley when the Spanish were in charge of this area. And he came as a notary, but he was really great at real estate. And he started to buy up little pieces of property all around this major square, right? Which becomes Jackson Square. And he becomes really wealthy. And what happens, do you think, someone of power, town council member, a judge, with a lot of wealth and a lot of property, what do you think happens to him? Or how do you think people kind of see him sometimes? You guys imagine? Do you think he was always loved and
Yeah,
cherished?
he was hated.
No. Okay. So some people will introduce the Baron a little later. Didn't always like him, but he manifested this amazing future for himself with all this property. There'd be terrible epidemics, and he would live. There'd be terrible fires, but his property wasn't harmed, and he was just a survivor. And later on in his life, he was in his 70s. He actually married Louise de la Ronde, who becomes Micaëla's mother. And they want to have a child for very long. It takes about 8 years until she gets pregnant and gives birth to Micaëla. And then about 2 or 3 years later, her sister, Andres, is born. So I just want to read you from the book.
You're real good.
Okay, so I'm going to read you all something from the book. Okay. 8 years is a long time, right, ladies, to get pregnant? Does anyone relate to, it took a long time.
Tough.
On November 6, 1795, a triumphant scream blazes into the world. Like an archangel, Micaëla, whose name means a gift from God, is born. She is defiant enough to survive. Micaëla leaps into the world, a strong-willed, indignant, irascible Spanish, French, Creole, New Orleans girl. Her parents see the brightness and brilliance in her eyes immediately. She isn't going to be a doll displayed daintily on a shelf with her mouth sewn shut. Watch out. This girl is a meteor penetrating the atmosphere, hurtling towards you like an enormous ball of fire. Join her or get out of her way.
Yeah. Bravo.
All right, so the birth of Micaëla. So everything is going well. She's got the mother, father, sister. What could possibly go wrong? How do you say that in French, Mom?
Qu'est-ce qui
Qu'est-ce qui pourrait bien martonner?
Okay, great.
Merci, Baba.
Okay, so we can go to the next slide. And basically, what happens is her father dies.
Yeah.
And then soon after, her sister dies, and she's left in New Orleans, and she's supposed to inherit all this wealth. He was the wealthiest man in New Orleans. And so because of that, she was sort of kind of hunted. People were like trying to get to her, manipulate her. And her mother says she's turning 15 soon. What happens at 15?
I get
Time to
married.
marry, right? So her mother decides that the safest course of action would be for her to marry her cousin, this gorgeous Frenchman, Celestine, because family never betrays you, right? Right? Okay. So this right here is a drawing that we actually got received from Pierre when we were visiting the Chateau de Montlevec. Over the generations, they've had several different renovations and they've did the construction, but it's looked different over the years. Okay, we can go to the next one. So she's dreaming, okay, finally, she has her like this beautiful man. She's gonna be whisked away to France and she'll be totally safe in this beautiful castle. But is it a beautiful ending, Mom?
They're after her money, and she doesn't want to give it.
Right.
So basically, the tension starts there.
Yes. Okay. Then we're gonna. All right, and then so we'll see. The nightmare begins.
Le cauchemar commence.
So she's, this beautiful bride. Here, she's about 16 after the wedding. They get married at St. Louis Cathedral, and I mean, her husband is gorgeous too. And they did have 5 children together, so we do think they liked each other, or they were attracted to one another. But she starts to get these like red flags. Her father-in-law, the Baron, who's actually named a Baron because his loyalty to Napoleon, is just trying to get her to give her her property. And a lot of times the French tradition was when you were married, the wife automatically gives all of their property, all of their wealth, everything to the husband. And Micaëla did not want to give it all up. She actually has a baby, and she's starting to, sense this winter, and I've actually visited twice. Brevi, I don't remember if you guys went in the summer or the winter, but it gets very cold and wet. Yes, when you all wet, it's very cold and very wet. And so she's having this baby wondering, am I gonna die? Is my baby gonna die? Luckily, Celestine is born. He does really well, but soon after, he dies. So she loses her first son, and when she goes to the grave, there's a beautiful tomb. Pierre let me into the family tomb, and I'll show you pictures later. But she goes to bury her child here in Senlis, and she looks at the placard in the tomb, and it doesn't say Celestine's name, her son's name, the birth date, or the death date, but it says Les Enfants de Pontalba. So this idea that he's not the first child to die in the family, and hopefully he won't be the last. Also because her father-in-law, he's very smart, conniving, strategic man. He starts to distance her mother. So her mother goes with her to France, but eventually he won't even allow her on the grounds. He just doesn't think she's a good influence for Micaëla, which is, it says there's no room in the chateau, but obviously there's one. And that's not their only chateau, they had a few. And so she has another child, Celestine, and she names the second one Celestine as well. And then a daughter, Mathilde, and then 2 more sons, Alfred and Gaston. And from time to time, she's living in Paris, and she just loves being part of, has anyone here been to Paris? Isn't it the most amazing city? Melissa, you have so much fun. I know, that's all. It's the most amazing city, but her father-in-law, her husband's family, really wants her to stay there. But unfortunately, her daughter dies, I think around the age of 5. So she's buried 2 children now. Let
me interrupt you.
Sure.
There was a lot of hatred from her father-in-law to her because her father-in-law was neglected and didn't rise in power in New Orleans. Her father was the pride and joy of the King of Spain, so he could do no wrong. Whereas Baroness was a star, the Baron de Pontalba was a loser, and therefore he fled. Well, he was a loser, in comparison. And he felt like a loser. And the only thing he could do, he connived from the time this young woman was born, was going to be an heir for all that money. He connived for how he could catch her and get her money. And that's really what the story is about.
And so we wanted to share a picture of Xavier de Pontalba, Joseph de Pontalba here, who again had a long military career. His son, Celestine, who also was in the military for some time, they were all born in New Orleans, but then they moved to France. He had a child, I think it was a daughter, that died as well, and he was just so protective of his son, and he wanted him to move to France. And I wanted to include some of our pictures from research. So I asked Pierre in an interview, do you have any costumes, any clothing? Because Mom and I love fashion. We interviewed a fashion historian, and he just leaves the room and comes out with a butler's uniform. And you can go to the next one too. Wow. Actually, there's the family crest were the buttons on this uniform. So the top is for Delphau, which is, I guess it sounds like peaches. And so that was the Pontalba crest. And then these kind of axes here, these were the sites were from the Almonester. And so whenever people got married, then they would take the mothers and the fathers and combine them on the family crest. And so this is what the button looks like. Now something else to share is since Micaëla entered the family and everything that happened in her life, after her, they did not change the family crest in the home. That's how important she was. Okay, next we'll talk about the vulture's descent. So years pass, the Baron, who really wants to capture her wealth and her money, he's just growing more and more angry and a little bit crazy.
He does extreme things. He goes over to New Orleans and changes the name on property that was in her name to his name, and rents it out and collects all the money for himself, and convinces a number of people that all this property in New Orleans that she owned. And her father was a great philanthropist. He gave to He built St. Louis Cathedral, he built the Cabildos, he gave to the Ursuline nuns, you know. And so she was very much loved. So this created a brief beginning, which we get any announcements that he was continually taking over her land, and she had to figure out a way to get it back.
Yes.
Mm.
And she wants to get it back. And the challenge was in 1830s, women couldn't just get on a ship and go to New Orleans. You had to get your husband's your father's written consent. But somehow in the 1830s she finds a way. We're not sure. I think it was the priest. I'm not sure who helped, but her sons were in boarding school, her 3 surviving sons. And she goes to New Orleans and she's trying to fight to retain her property rights. And then she returns, and we think this was like the final straw, that the Baron was just so furious that she would leave France and go to New Orleans. When we visited the chateau this last time, we knew that he was a hunter, and he always carried around guns. And he was very powerful in the chateau, and no one would stop him. And we also knew that Micaëla, we saw one of her hunting permits, she liked to hunt as well. And so when we were there visiting the house, there's a separate house called the Petit Chateau. So with Micaëla's amazing determination, the Baron continues to take things away from her. So he decides that she's not allowed to stay in the home anymore. She has to stay in the servants' quarters, the farthest room away from the chateau, this tiny room. When she shows up to dinner, for a meal with the family, her mother-in-law, her husband, her father-in-law, she is to be invisible. No one can look at her, no one can respond to her. It's like she's not even there. So like bit by bit, he's really trying to break her, and somehow she's not breaking. But when we visited, I walked through the mudroom, the entry of this Petit Chateau, and the renter said to us, we're all hunters here. And he actually had all his hunting gear. So hunting is still very much a part of property. Okay. And so this is just a view of the property. So it used to be the summer residence of the bishops. I think he had like lambs there, or goats or something. And it's just really interesting to see that this home has been retained in the family for so many generations. And we were really inspired that the family is still committed to her story and taking care of the land. Okay. So next, should we talk about the murder room, Mom?
Yeah, you talk about it.
Okay.
Qui se passait ce matin au Petit Château. Micaëla échappait. Quelqu'un allait-il arrêter le baron?
Beautiful. So what happens was the Baron is getting very upset. His eldest grandson is supposed to inherit the title Baron. So that title that Xavier got from Napoleon actually continues to go down even this day through the firstborn son. And so Celestine, who had some problems, he had some anger issues and got in trouble with the law. He was going to be written out of the will of his grandfather, the title taken away, property taken away. And so this is when Micaëla comes to the property and is really there to advocate for her son. And when she comes, she's again taken to her tiny room. So we'll go to the next one. So I wanted to, so this is the main chateau, and then this is the Petit Chateau just next door. Yeah. And so, walking into the room, it's a little bit smaller than this first room here. I just imagine it was like a 16-year-old woman from New Orleans going to France, thinking she's gonna live in a castle. And the reality is she's in this tiny closet with a view of everything that's happening, everyone who's coming and going. And when I went to this room, I said to Pierre, I said, no one stopped this guy coming in? He's marching towards her room alone, and he's got guns on him. She said, no, he's in charge. No one's gonna stop him. And so she is in this room, and she's really trapped. I said, well, maybe she could jump out the window. He said, well, she'd be dead. Maybe she could hide. She's trapped. He has all the keys, and he is going to do whatever he can to secure that property and the wealth for his son.
And we have to add the fact that she had been secretly with her husband. They got along really great when the old man wasn't there. So she had been secretly with her husband for 3 hours, and he was furious. The father-in-law did not want his son to talk to her at all, and they were having sort of a wild affair. Throughout most of their life, it was off and on, but it was pretty cool.
Yes.
Think Steve McQueen, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Gorgeous.
Yes, okay. And can we play this? It's just a short, really short video that I wanted to show you all, just to get a sense of the room, because, part of our research is we want to look at, the original letters that were written, any historical documentation. But when I read the letters that Micaëla had written, it's actually in the book, I pictured a much larger, grander room, and in reality, it was this very tiny room with no escape. And you can see there's this tiny area where she would have slept, and there's a fireplace to keep her warm. Okay, we can go to the next one. And so with this, I'll go ahead, I'll share with you all what happens. The Baron comes to her house, so we can go on. He comes to her room with these pistols, and she tells him, no, you won't do this. You're not going to kill me. You're going to shoot me. And he does. He shoots her twice in the chest. He aims for her throat, and the gun misfires. She puts her hands up in front of the gun to stop it, and he blows off 2 of her fingers. And for the rest of her life, she wears gloves with fake finger inserts to cover up her injuries. He leaves her in a pool of blood, just bleeding out, and in this tiny room. And then he goes back to the chateau, and he thinks he's finally done it. I have a gift for my son. I've resolved it. I was thinking, why did he wait this long? He waited, quite some time to do this, but he just didn't know any other way. And so what Mom and I like to do in our research is we look at the facts, and then we look at the gaps. We look at the facts. I like that. We look at the gaps, and we want to know, where is there possibility? Where can history be reinterpreted or re-examined? What clues have been hidden? What clues have been destroyed? What else is possible? What other story is there, right? What we have read is that he goes to his back to the chateau. He locks himself in his office, which is currently used as a carpentry room, so still used. And he changes his will in a very interesting way. It didn't really make too much sense. And then the story is he shot himself. He killed himself. We want to see another possibility?
Yeah, I like the second possibility.
Okay, so the second possibility is he goes back to this house. Celestine finds that his wife is bleeding out, mother of his 3 children, this woman he loves so much. And we learn that the Baron is shot not once, but twice in the chest. So I wonder, how do you shoot yourself twice in the chest with these old guns? With a dual pistol. So maybe Celestine, maybe someone else. We don't know. But that is a possibility for interpretation. Okay, so the next chapter is about the rise of the Phoenix, which is Micaëla.
I want to talk a little bit
Yeah, sure.
about the death. I think we have to realize that this castle was an 8-hour drive on a horse from Paris. So if you were planning to go to Paris, you're going to live 8 hours away, and you're going to have to take a pony or some kind of carriage to get there. It was horrific. There were no doctors, really. I mean, the people who were practicing medicine were basically people who were saving cattle. I mean, they had no experience whatsoever. And so she was isolated from her mother, who bought a house nearby, but was refused entry. So the fact that she was totally isolated in this derelict situation where the whole town was the castle and was the Baron and could stop him. Did his son kill the father? We don't know, but he went back. Celestine nursed his wife to life. It was extraordinary that these maids and basically his son could bring her back. And her determination not to die. No, she wasn't going to.
Yes. And so they brought in eventually doctors from Paris, and she was able to miraculously survive. She actually lived the rest of her life with 2 bullets still in her chest because they were just too worried about the risk of removing them. Okay, we can go to the next one. So this is with the last part of today's talk. We wanted to talk a little bit just about Micaëla and that she survives. And this happens, I think, about 1834. And she has dreams of building these Pontalba apartments. Her first idea that was written was in 1836, so she's starting just to make announcements in the New Orleans newspaper to get the permits. First, she wants to just change the facade, but then she changes her mind about that. She builds the Hotel de Pontalba. She hires the architect of Napoleon's tomb. So she has very good taste. Do you ever anybody have one of those friends, you go to their house and they're like amazing taste? She had incredible vision. And even though she wasn't formally trained as an architect, she knew how to read, was a draftsman, she knew how to read plans, she knew how to order stacks, she knew how to keep that level high. Did anyone have a teacher like that who like, that excellence was like, that's the only thing you can strive for? Like, yeah, so she didn't let go, and because of that, people sometimes had a hard time with her. And I asked Pierre, I said, was it tough because she was a woman and she was a leader and giving all these commands? And he said, no, it's because she demanded excellence.
She demanded
Pretty amazing. So she comes back to New Orleans again. And by the way, she had epilepsy. So she's struggling with severe pain and health challenges her whole life. She returns to New Orleans, and we can go to the next slide. And she builds these Pontalba apartments. Right after she's shot, a few years later, she has Charles-Marie Deboeuf, one of the most famous aristocratic painters in Paris at the time. This is actually a study of the painting that I just stumbled upon at the house. And then this is her also photographed with braids. And we learned that women only wash their hair like once a month.
Once a month.
We can go to the next slide. And she brought her son Gaston, who was an amazing artist too, and he would draw. We have great records of what he saw and how different it looked then. And then, the street art doesn't come around until like 1835, but New Orleans has changed. When she came in in the 1830s, she wasn't happy with how the city looked, and so when she came back in 1848, she really was committed to building those Pontalba apartments. And so this is a view, actually from the Lieutenant Governor's residence. They let me in. Take pictures, pretty exciting. And here's a cathedral and carriage rides. So we wonder, that 15-year-old girl who left New Orleans always wanted to come back.
She only went to like the 8th grade at Ursuline. She wasn't. It's extraordinary that she could do all this.
No. She was brilliant. Okay, so we see this too, this ironwork with the A and the P. Has, Alminster and Pontalba. It's still standing. It's like the center of our city and iconic for the city. And then this right here is the 1850 House Museum that just kind of shows what it would have looked like at the time when the people were living on the upper levels and then the bottom level was retail, just like today. And then, Mom, I wanted to invite you to read next. Your section, Turn on the Lights. And we just wanted to, again, we started the book writing a nonfiction. It turned into more of a historical fiction, a thriller, because, again, we wanted to keep that pacing and the drama, and we wanted to try to just understand what she might have felt. So.
Well, this is just a brief monologue. It's not long, but it happens right after she's recovered from her shooting, whatever. And she's alone with her husband. And she says, he says, "Why must we move permanently to Paris?" I have to say this line. And she says, "Paris is my opiate against deformity. If I feel beautiful, I will revive. I just want to act normal. Get me to Paris, buy me the most glamorous gloves and gowns." Okay, he does not want to leave because he loves this. He's now the Baron, he now owns all this property. He now has no conflicts, except his wife, of course. And she directs him to let her see her hand, because her hand and her breast have been all wrapped up. And he unwraps the bandage slowly. Viewing the surgical site for the first time jaws her. Her lips tense at the severity of the deformity. No one told her how mangled her hand was. It was just a question of one finger that was gone, or a nipple that wasn't there. She could possibly accept it. Now she looks at herself, scared out of her mind. She announces, "Well, the priest is right." Viewing the surgical side, he said, "Just 3 fingers are left. Then Micaëla demands, remove my chest bandage so I can see my mutilated body. Then maybe I'll face reality. She moans, I'm not going to allow months to go by without looking at my scars. I'll mourn my body too. Time seems to stop. Her muscles tense as he undresses her body. She stares at Celestin through the excruciating pain. Summons the strength to utter, I'm a baroness with a butchered body. Still, I will have to face these extended labyrinthian inquisitions. I've been strong for 39 years. Now I've accepted brutality. Stretched out and cried myself blind. She grits her shattering teeth. Heaven knows I need some kind of radical help. It's not enough for the priest to tell me to forgive others, because I know I have a wounded, fallen human nature, a darkened intellect, a selfishness. And now that I'm buried, bruised, bashed, and beaten, I'm going back to Paris, then to New Orleans, and with one breast and one hand, I will build an empire.
So we just wanted to thank you all. Merci beaucoup. Special thanks to Alan Apili, Alliance Francaise, and we have one more picture of us with Pierre, who wrote the foreword for the book and shared with us all these photographs and images that had never been published before. Also want to thank Gail Aronson, who is the
niece to the 6th generation.
Yes.
Of the Baroness.
Yes, and their families, both sides. Here in New Orleans and in France, there's still descendants celebrating, and this is Pierre and I at the chateau. And then the last slide, again, is just inside of that tomb. And I visited on All Souls Day. And it was really beautiful to walk into the tomb and see how, we remember and we honor our ancestors and the dead. Her husband here, his date of birth and death. Micaëla's is slowly kind of wearing away, right? We see that the reserve for the infants of the family. We see Madame Almonester, even though she remarried and her name was Castillon, the Baron still had such a grudge against her husband that he didn't even give any detail, like when she was born, even her first name. And then this one right here is the Baron, whose funeral was done very quickly so that it could be Catholic funeral, and he was deemed, mentally
crazy.
Yes, but this is just again to honor them, and I really hope that we can continue to tell the story of the Baroness, because she's a great symbol for hope and resilience. Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
Yeah.
I think Raymond's gonna moderate for us.
Yeah.
Do you want to sit together or?
Oh, stand.
Oh, you'll stand?
Yeah,
You'll
fine.
stand, okay.
I think it's better.
Okay.
Well, you sit. Well, I'm standing by myself. A lame woman stands.
I didn't want to stand up too much because we're going to pass the mic around.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Pass the mic. I know that's right.
So just the question that I had, you kind of answered a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
About what happened when she put her hand up to the gun, and at that moment is when she became the Baroness, begrudgingly against, he didn't want it, but ultimately it's what happened. And you talked about your process. I did a little research, and you said that from one of your earlier books with Degas, first you identify the myth, you look at what's overlooked, then you choose your focus. So your focus was telling her story with your mom. And doing my own research, I found out that she was the richest woman in the city at the time. and that her fortune came from what her father left to her, and is in the inheritance. When her sister died, they took that and gave it to her, so that kind of doubled. But the mom, she wasn't wealthy herself, but she was savvy enough to increase the size of the inheritance, and that's what attracted all of these men who were like, hey, let me marry your daughter. But it got interesting when I discovered that under French law, the husband did control a woman's dowry, but not the inheritance. So the mom knew to keep those things separate. So as a mother-daughter duo writing this book, what was that like? And did you feel any type of connection to Madame Almonaster, as she was called, when you were writing the book and working with your daughter?
Of course I felt that. You know, you can't be, well, I'm just very grateful that the Napoleonic Code came out in 1804, you know, because that was the thing that really enraged this baron, because before 1804, there was a law that came out that said if you were a woman and you inherited money from your parents or whatever, you got to keep it for yourself. You didn't get to keep anything else, but you got to keep that. So it, you know, happened in me in my life. I'm very, very grateful to be in New Orleans, being divorced and remarried, that I got to keep the inheritance of my father. I was able to retire early as a teacher because of that. So yeah, it's been a big thing for Louisiana to have that. And of course, it was so new when she married that this baron was horrified. They didn't even understand. She was following the Napoleonic Code of America when she was living in France. So you realize that was a very brave thing. Now, Rory, what do you want to say about this?
Oh, sure. I would just say that I'm proud that Louisiana sided with her. You know, that the judge sided with her. And so I think that was really wonderful. But I think the process of Mom and I writing together, it's so funny because I can picture these things in my mind. And then she'll tell me stories about the family. And I'll say, that can't happen. And she's like, oh no, that happened. That happens, definitely. People were hiding things right after they died because everyone was after getting this jewelry and hiding a pearl necklace and a bowl of turtle soup. I said, I won't do that, Mom. Filling the pillowcases with cash. I was like, what? And so I think part of the biggest fun with you was just like how to make it humorous, how to make it crazy, how to make it fun and believable, and then also not give too much information. We have to say Dr. Vela, her book Intimate Enemies, was a huge scholarship, and we wouldn't be able to do this without her. So I think I wish I would have met her, but her scholar was amazing. We wanted to just follow Micaëla because it gets very complicated. But if there's any lawyers in the room, I know there's a lot of court cases that were very complicated reading through.
I want to say that Rory is a brilliant scholar. Rory, my daughter, I can brag on her. She's a brilliant scholar at a very important school, University of Southern California, that checks all footnotes. So she's like really, I mean, any kind of wild thing I put down that I can't find a footnote for, she kills it. I'm like, oh, but it makes the story. No, if we can't footnote it, I can't do it. So the tension is between scholarship and passion, basically.
Yeah. It's a good combo. I think there's a question over here.
Go ahead.
I was just going to grab the other microphone for if you want.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah. Are you going to make this into a movie?
That was my next question.
What do you guys want to see? Tell us. What do you think about it? It sounds like a movie.
Sounds like a movie. That's great. I love this one.
Yeah, before it was even published, it's optioned by Maria's Support Productions, and then we met with someone in New Orleans earlier this past weekend who's sharing with someone in Los Angeles. So we would love to make a film. So that's the goal, to make it here in New Orleans and maybe in France too.
Yeah, I think our goal for Rory and me writing together, really, it's to create tremendous interest in New Orleans, to bring art and culture here, to bring opportunity here, and to make the literary scene of New Orleans as strong as it was ever. You know, probably the strongest in the world. So we really appreciate y'all being here at What Our Dream. It's happening now.
I don't have any more questions, so I'll open it up to the audience for questions. We don't have a lot of slack on the mic, but I can pass it around.
I don't need a mic. So I know Pierre, and I asked him, how did his family survive the French Revolution? And he said they were in New Orleans. And I was just wondering when they came to New Orleans, because I didn't ask him that. But I noticed that Celestine was born in 1790 or something like that.
They went back to Paris, but he was like 2 years old.
So it was safe after that, but you know, because they were nobility, they would have been killed.
Was he
We
a noble
know
then? I don't
that-
think he was a baron then. He didn't
Oh,
become a
I
baron
see.
after Napoleon.
They weren't a baron
No,
until after
uh-uh.
Napoleon. Okay.
It was kind of a paid for position where he had, you know, they did a sort of deal on the table. So he wasn't a baron, no.
Yeah, I would just say Micaëla's mother, French Canadian, that came down from Canada. Yeah, her father was a black musketeer. Was
Okay.
murdered, yeah.
He was murdered?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
interesting past, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That's it?
Yes?
Oh.
I'm a tour guide in Louisiana, so I actually talk about her a lot,
Oh, okay.
amongst others, when I do French Quarter tour. But I realized that I got some things wrong. They, so the family, they were from France or they were from here originally? The Pontalba.
French, yes. Born in New Orleans, yeah. Both
So
the
they
Baron
were-
and his wife, yeah, were born in New Orleans, yeah.
So the father-in-law and her husband were born in New Orleans?
Yeah,
Yeah. Then they
yeah.
moved to
And so
Baron.
his
And then
parents
they
were born in
went to
France,
France.
yeah.
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 Okay. Also, I thought they got married in New Orleans. They got married in France?
No, they got
Micaëla?
married at St. Louis Cathedral.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's what I thought, okay. And I didn't, it was not clear the two possibilities, so the father-in-law shot her, then he shot himself, that's what I tell people.
Yes.
Twice.
And you said, what was the second possibility?
Well, he shot himself twice in the chest. And so the
Yeah.
question is, was that suicide or did someone else?
Oh, okay, for the father-in-law.
Yeah,
We
father,
were
right.
suggesting that maybe his son did it, you know, Celestin, who was married to Micaëla.
Okay.
A lot of people hated him.
Yes.
And you said her father was how old when she was born?
In his 70s? Yeah. In the back of the book, we have a whole timeline of like
That
birth
was,
dates.
that was the hard
Yeah.
part that was for me to imagine. If he's 70 and it took 8 years to get pregnant, I can
Yes,
imagine, yeah, it
yes.
would take a while
It
if
would
he's
take a
70.
while.
Yes, yeah, that's true.
Especially before, back then, when they didn't
Yes.
have,
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, I'd like to ask, I mean, it's obviously that the father-in-law was really, had a lot of animosity towards her, even before the shooting.
Right.
Well, what about her husband? I mean, obviously there was a great deal of love, attraction, whatever, between them. Was he a wimp that he never stood up to his father? I mean, did he ever advocate for his wife? I mean,
yeah, yes. At one point they did try running away together, but that did not work out. I think he was just so controlled by his father. He was just manipulated and he was terrified of him. I mean, for good reason. Yeah.
He did buy a house in New Orleans for Micaëla, and so they had, not New Orleans, in Paris for Micaëla, so they had a place to stay in Paris. And at one point they went there and stayed, you know.
so they could get away from the family.
Yeah, but then it didn't totally work out, because when she went to New Orleans and came back, then the Baron had taken over her property in Paris and eliminated all the furniture and everything in the house.
Yeah, she goes back
She
to
had
her
no place to
apartment
stay.
and the lock has changed and he sold all of her furniture.
Yeah,
So this is not good.
Grim. But the son did make effort, but yes, I think he was kind of, unless he killed his father at the end, I don't know, I think he took a lot. But he was the only son of a very wealthy father, and he had been spoiled all of his life, and a very wealthy mother, and he loved his parents. This was the difficulty for him. He really cared about his parents. They were obsessed about him. He was like if you read the letters, when the Baron wrote to his wife when she went to the wedding, and Baron did not go to the wedding, everything in his house, a little tutu, to get a little tutu something, I mean, it was almost exotic.
Yeah.
Tauntaun, you could tauntaun something, tauntaun speak today, tauntaun rub his toe today, I mean, it was excessive. So that was when he was little. So I guess, having that umbrella of love around you, probably was hard to break away from that, And the other time, So I think he was wimpish at some point, yeah. Aren't we all wimpish at some point for money? Come on.
Thank you. Oh,
Sure. Could you tell more about her the building of the Pontalba
Yeah,
building?
Rory,
Because
yes,
I heard that she was able to control everything. She was as good as an architect, as an entrepreneur, as a technician,
yeah.
being on the scaffolding,
Yes.
etc., etc.
Yes. So her vision started in about 1836. She hired Gallier an Irish architect to design the original drawings, but then she wasn't really happy with how things were turning out, so she fired him, and she had this person in charge of construction build it, but she was meticulous in choosing the finest things, so she would visit, to pick a mantle, she'd visit a shop 3 times. She had the bricks sent in from one state, she had, all these different elements so that it was the most beautiful and that would last, because she wanted it to last. And even the design of the courtyards and the retail space in the bottom and the how the air is recycled was really innovative for her time. There are reports from newspapers of her being seen wearing pantaloons and climbing ladders, telling workers what to do. And when she was in France, she would have a delegate in charge of things. But yes, she did leave the building. Yeah.
Was any of it burned? Like, I know wasn't there a big fire in New Orleans?
Yeah, there was
It's the 1850s, I don't remember.
So did the
78. Yeah,
The fires
too.
were
There you go.
before.
It was prior to this?
The fires were before.
I think he paid for a lot of the renovations of the whole city, He was which angered a lot of, he was very endeared because he did that.
I read that
Yes.
his houses were not destroyed by the fire.
Right.
But he made a lot of money because
Yes.
there was such a need for housing that
Right.
he would demand
Yes.
horrific rents because his houses hadn't been destroyed.
Right, so yes, he raised the rent because there was a shortage of housing, and Andres Almonester, we talk about his philanthropy and his goodness, but he was a flawed man. You
Right.
see in the book, he's not a perfect person.
Making
too.
money
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah. Oh, in the back, yeah.
Hey, just kind of a further question about the apartments. It kind of seems like they're in the general French Quarter style that we know, which, if I'm not mistaken, is more of like a Spanish style. So I'm curious why, with all of these like strong French roots, do you think she leaned towards that like post-fire Spanish approach as opposed to something more classic?
Her first language was Spanish.
Oh, really?
Yes, and so even when she learned French and she was fluent in French, but even reading her letters, Pierre told us you can tell that it's not her first language. So I think she was probably very connected to her Spanish roots and probably her father's legacy.
But
Yeah.
her inspiration was the Place des Vosges in Paris.
Well,
Yes,
before,
and
yeah.
also in London, there's another place too, and because she went to London right before she came to New Orleans as well. So, yes, it's great. Why not be inspired by Paris and
Right.
London and all these great places?
What about her house? What about the house she had in Paris? Did she design that one?
I think so, yes. She worked with Visconti, Napoleon's architect of the Tomb of Napoleon. And people say over time it's changed. It's actually the residence of the American ambassador. And when I was there, we were there with Carol
I
DeTosti,
love
this
this story.
journalist, and she said, Rory, just go. Maybe they'll let you in. I said, oh my God. So I go, and there, it's all these people, men and women with guns, like protecting. I say, I'm an author from New Orleans. I'm researching. They said, oh, just call the office, here's a number. And I call the office, and I get a voicemail, and it says, for murder and abduction, press 9. I left a voicemail, but I was not a priority. So I did not get in. But some people have been and seen it. It's actually very similar. There's actually a room that's named after her. She had this beautiful courtyard and garden, and she just knew, like her father, like where to buy. She bought right there in Place de la Concorde, and a huge property. It's gorgeous. So if you know anyone who can get us in,
When you make your film, you've got to arrange to film there at that location.
Okay, yes. We
House of
love
the General's around the corner.
Yes, we gotta talk to them, throw it off.
Okay.
Why not? Okay.
Can you just
Okay.
reconfirm the date that this was built?
1848 to 1851. 51.
So the fires were in the 1700s.
Yeah,
The fires were way
1780.
before
She
that.
was born in
Yes.
1795.
Mm-hmm.
She was born in 1795.
Right.
But I forgot where I read this or if I heard it in a conference or something, but maybe you will know that supposedly first they built the one uptown, on the uptown side, and then she said Now you have the blueprints and everything. Of course, the aim of the game was the symmetry. So she said, I'm going to pay you less money for the second one because all you have to do is copy. I don't know if this is true.
Well, I think
But
that
this
she
would
was
fit
a-
with
I
her
think she-
personality,
Yeah,
right?
she had a hard bargain, you know, yeah, she liked to negotiate, and there are some accounts of people not being paid as much as they were promised, so,
Oh my
yeah,
God.
yeah. Thanks, everybody, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. The book is for sale in the back. I'd love you to get a book, The Blood of the Baroness. We also have other books that we've written on Degas, Kate Chopin, and various other books we've written on New Orleans. We're now written 6, so please get something. Yeah, thanks.
Yes. And we'll be up here signing books, so if you
So
have
once
a
you
book,
get
come
your
see
book,
us,
come on
say
up here,
hello.
we'll sign it, yeah.
And we want to thank you all for joining us this evening at the Alliance Francaise. The evening's not over with. If you want, like I said, come grab your book and get it signed. We'll be in the back until they start to wrap up. So thank you again. Let's give them a round of applause.